I want to welcome everyone today. We are doing team composition and we're focusing on selection. So without actually realizing it, this webinar series is turning into everything there is about teams, which is the heart of what I do. You know, putting people first is really all about engaging your teams. And so we've spent a few months talking about, size and structure of teams, those types of things. And we're going to just continue down this path, and we're going to do it in a stepwise pattern. So today we're going to talk about selection, and I'm not sure if it's going to be in the same way that you were thinking we're talking about selection, but there's some core elements that I want to make sure that we cover when it comes to selection. And there's actually something I want to share with all of you. It came from a podcast I listened to from Wharton at UPenn down in Philadelphia. And it says, there was a study of team size, and it's one of the great areas of concentration. What size is ideal for a team? But then Mueller and other Wharton management experts acknowledged that size is not necessarily the first consideration when putting together an effective team. So last month, we talked a lot about size, structure, how to support teams. But what they recommend, in addition, is that it's important to ask what type of work the team will engage in. Then it defines whom you want to hire, what types of skills you are looking for. And then a subcategory to this is the degree of coordination required. And that is something I want to make sure that we are talking about when we consider selection. It's going to be looking at the type of coordination. It's the type of skills and not just the technical skills that we need to look at. We need to consider, are they a team that's doing independent work with rarely needing to touch base? Or is it a very interconnected team that together make the work happen? And so these are some of the other considerations when we think about how do we want to select the right people for the team. Now, when we talk about teams in this situation, we can look at teams from two different perspectives, and I want to be clear about what each of those are. So the first aspect of team that we're going to look at is what we would traditionally think of as the people we work with, or when you're in a leadership position, the team is the people that I directly support. And that's absolutely the most common type of team that you're going to be doing selection around. But sometimes we're fortunate enough to get the opportunity to work on a project or work on something where a team is being selected specifically for that role. And I've got someone, I'm just going to mute you all. There we go. And so one of the things we want to think about is today, I'm going to be focusing primarily on teams in that traditional sense of all my colleagues I work with closely. Next time, when we're diving a little bit more into team dynamics, we'll talk about when you have that opportunity to build a team for a specific activity as opposed to the daily work together. So as a reminder, when we do the webinars, you know that I love when screens are on because I just love the chance to see faces. I get to tell what direction we need to go with things. I encourage you to take notes. And since the webinar is being recorded, I wanted to remind you that you have access to all of the previous webinars that I've done. And if you've got a question as we're going along, please remember to lean into the chat. Here it is, just as a reminder. But we will be using the chat function pretty heavily when it comes to questions and anything that you want to make sure that we highlight during the session. So for now, I'm going to have you all muted. We'll do questions in the chat, and then of course at the end, please feel free to take your mics off, and we'll have some great conversation. And remember, everything that we have recorded so far is in that web resource center. So today we're going to look at team composition, again thinking in that primary sense of team of the people we work directly with on a daily basis. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about selection And that is really the key, because even if you're doing a great job of attracting lots of candidates, and can I get a hand raised? How many of you have at least a handful to a dozen applicants each time you post a job? Who has like at least a handful? Hand up, use your thumbs up, the emoji, whatever you got. Okay, I'm seeing Sherry raise her hand. Rachel is saying that they've got, oh man, they must have a lot in their team. Yeah, so lots of people having a lot of good candidates. Anybody struggling to find candidates? Maybe raise your hand there. All right, so I'm seeing the same hands go up as yes, we have lots of candidates, and yes, it's also hard to find good candidates. That's why we're going to start with attraction. And when we think about attraction, there's a few components that we have to consider. The first is role. You know, when we think about attracting people to a position, we have to have good clarity around the work. And you may remember from our team composition structure webinar, we touched briefly on key accountabilities and the benefits of having really clear expectations, what's the priority, how we're going to measure success. Key accountabilities are one of the ways that we help ensure that when people are applying for a position, they're clear on what the role is. And I have to tell you, I have people say to me all the time, oh, Amy, it's really clear. They're a front desk office person. It's really clear. They're in billing. It's really clear. It's a sales position. It's really clear. It's the director of HR, or it's a physician or a physician assistant. Each one of your organizations may have the same job title, but the actual culture of your organization, the environment they're going to work in, the actual measures of success are unique for every single organization. So I don't want you to say, well, Amy, it's a physical therapy position. Everybody knows exactly what the role is. There's so much more to it than that. So I want you to make sure you're taking the time to truly focus on developing your key accountabilities, because that is the actual role that they're applying for. And it's more than just a title. So when we think about the laws of attraction, and I guess just for fun, I often go on to Indeed to figure out what kind of job postings are out there. And it's fascinating. Some of them, they have a title. I couldn't even tell you what it means. Some of them, they start with the role and then they start with all these other pieces. But when we look at successfully attracting quality candidates, there's a couple things that we need to do much more than just explain what the role is. So when you're thinking about attraction and when you're writing your ads or posting them online, I want you to think about more than just the role. The next thing we need to look at is WIIFM. Who can put into the chat what radio station WIIFM stands for? What's the W, the I, the F, the M? Anybody know? I see Sherry shaking her head. So we've got, who can give me a good guess on this one? Yes, thank you. What's in it for me? When it comes down to it, after people know what the role is, they want to know what's in it for them. And later on, I'm going to do some work around motivation and what values they are looking to have met when it comes to what's in it for me. So what I find really interesting is when I see a job posting and it says, here's your role. Here's the laundry list of 27 things you might possibly ever do in the job. Oh, and then at the bottom, we're going to tell you that we offer benefits, period. We want to actually start with what's in it for them. Why do they want to work for your company? And when it comes to what's in it for them, part of what's in it for them is the opportunity to work with your culture. It's the opportunity to work with your unique value proposition that you provide to your clients, your patients, your customers. So when we think about what's in it for them, it has to be a full package. You cannot win on salary alone. You might win in the short run, but you're going to lose the race. And we're going to talk about why salary is not the only factor. And I know people push back on this all the time. Oh, Amy, it is. They left me for $1 an hour. They left me for $2 an hour. They went to work at the Wawa because they're paying $20 an hour. Yes, there is an element of salary, but you're going to get to a level with salaries where that's no longer the distinguishing factor. So let's look at what else matters. The organization's purpose statement, the values that it has. Raise your hand or give me a thumbs up emoji. How many of you have your purpose statement on your website and your value statement on the website? Who's got them? Raise your hands, emojis up. Excellent, good. How many of you talk about your purpose statement, your mission statement during that interview process? How many are bringing it up? Not so many. All right, we're going to talk about how we want to layer that in. The next thing, yes, if you're going to attract people to your organization and to this position, they need to know what the job requirements are. But again, shift away from that old thinking around a laundry list of possible tasks. Make it about the core expectations and the way that they are going to have success. All right, now I want to hear from you. Put into the chat, what else do you think is part of the laws of attraction when it comes to attracting possible candidates? This is where the Jeopardy music plays in the background. I take a sip of water. Into the chat, what else is part of the laws of attraction? Why do people want to work for you? Oh, Sherry, good work ethic. I'm hoping that means on the organization side that they are part of that. Culture, values, absolutely. Benefits, very true. Benefits are important, and we're going to talk about how benefits aren't one size fit all. Job environment, absolutely. Opportunities, yes, thank you, Christina. It's about what's possible. Heidi, great point about flexibility. And I know that can be a sticky one for people. Fawn, you're right. There is that element of wage and of salary benefits pieces. That's only one area that we're going to look at, though. All right, great stuff. So when we think about what's in it for me, WW or WII FM, on this radio station, when people are attracted to your organization, what do you tell them is in it for them? What are the motivations that you can use at your organization? How do you motivate people in their work? Go ahead and put it into the chat for me. Monday through Friday. Oh, Sherry's like, no weekends, people. What else? Hey, tuition reimbursement, great one. Mentoring, training, absolutely. Great benefits. Yep. Shelby, that's an important one, and we'll look at some of the benefits because it's not only about a 401k or a 403b. Opportunities to advance, positive work environment, absolutely. This is fantastic because when we think about, Andrew, career growth opportunities, mentorship for new grads, and you know what? I think it's mentorship forever. I may have been out of school for a while, but there's always something that there's possibility to learn. And that's a good example of what I'm talking about when we consider what motivates people. Rachel, no on-calls for nurses. Oh, that sounds heavenly. All right, when we think about what's in it for me, many of you know I am an assessment junkie. You've read it in my blogs. I talk about them all the time, and I use them with almost all of my clients. And one of the things that we look at with candidates is, what are they looking for as the what's in it for me? So several of you brought up this idea of people who are motivated by learning for the sake of learning. That's that high intellectual. This is the type of person who wants continuing education, tuition reimbursement, those types of things. Positive work environment, that's someone who's looking for harmony in their world. They don't want chaos. They want consistency. And so a lot of people, when I say, what do you think motivates everyone? They go immediately to this idea of reward, recognition, money, ROI for the work. That's only 2 aspects out of 12 when it comes to what motivates and drives people. And what we have to realize is there's these 6 core elements. It's how do we want to learn? How do we want to go about our tasks? What do we want our environment to be like? How do we want to have social interaction with others? How do we want to have our individualism recognized? And how much structure do we want in our world? So as you start to look at ways to attract the right talent, you want to think about, how does our organization reward people? And so I work with some companies where truly it is all about the next promotion. 90% of the people there is like, what's my next promotion? What's my next promotion? Because that's the structure of the organization. So they're all motivated, not all, about 90% of them are motivated that way. And then you get that person in there who says, well, I'm not all about promotion. And so they get left behind simply because they're motivated in a different way. You might have an organization that encourages continuous learning, wants everybody to go to as many courses a year as they can. Maybe you're an organization that actually invites research and says, let's put some research projects together. There's going to be some people who like to go with their gut, who like to go with their past knowledge. So if your way of motivating people is by saying, we want you to go get your PhD, they're going to say, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. That's not my thing. I don't like research. I don't need to learn just for the sake of learning. So we want to consider, how is someone going to be interested in learning? What's going to get them excited about learning? And you can use each of these core elements, and I'm going to show you later how you can layer these in to actual questions in your interviews. So what I want you to think about is, in your organization, you mentioned benefits. People talked about growth opportunities. People talked about mentorship. Is it mentorship for everyone, or is it mentorship for select few who show the best promise? Is it an organization that rewards efficiency and effectiveness, or is it an organization that that provides benefits and opportunities for people who are willing to do the task as long as it takes? These are some of the things you want to think about, because when you do your job postings, here's how different they can look. So 2 companies, our company has a rich tradition of excellence in the community. They're seeking managers who will carry on proven methods. If we go back to this idea here, that's someone who likes structure and tradition. I know some people on this call, and there's a few of you that actually are past military or working with military folks. Highly traditional structure. Yep, that's very common in those types of communities. So you want to think about, is it someone on our team that we're always thinking outside the box, and they're going to struggle because they're not motivated by that? And if you are looking for someone who wants cutting edge, out of the box thinking, here's your advertisement. Our company seeks to provide cutting edge care. We're looking for a manager who embraces innovation and out of the box thinking. With this example alone, you are going to attract 2 very different candidates, right? Very different. Same thing here. Our core values include maximizing efficiency and effectiveness for our customers and our practice. This is a practice that's going to have high volume, high efficiency. That's what they're going to get rewarded on. Practice why? Our core values include selflessly doing what it takes to meet the customer's needs. This is the organization and the practice that might say, we give the highest touch customer service possible, no matter how long it takes. And so they're 2 different ends of the spectrum, and they're going to attract different types of candidates. We're looking for managers who are interested in becoming future owners or maybe moving up to a new position, promotions, reward, recognition, compared to we provide paid time off for researching best practices and supporting continuous learning. If you look at these two ads, very different and different candidates, which is what you want. You want people to self-select them out. Whereas if you just said, you know, we're looking for a new manager, that's the role. You're going to get flooded with applicants that don't actually align with your culture. They don't align with your work environment, and they're not going to align with the benefits that your company offers. The second thing that I look at once I understand what motivates someone, and most importantly, once I understand how my organization motivates people, then we're going to look at those behaviors. And again, full transparency, you know I love my disc. So I just want to talk about the fact that when you consider a position, your disc styles, this ability to make fast decisions, be quick on your feet, and then that person who wants to have more time to think through things, that person who loves to compete versus the person who avoids conflict, those behaviors are really important to understand in your role. And I have people say to me all the time, well, you know, I don't want to pigeonhole someone with their disc profile. Neither do I. And you know what? My behavioral style profile doesn't line up with an entrepreneur. So I get the support I need to do it anyway, because I love the work. But what I will tell you is when you think about watching a movie, could you picture Tom Cruise having been so successful if he had tried to do more movies like Tom Hanks? Or maybe he tried to do more movies with that comedic flair of Steve Carell? No. Actors get typecast because you know what? They're naturally good at certain things. I mean, even if you love Tom Hanks, do you really think he could pull off a Mission Impossible video? No, I don't think so. So why would we ask him to stretch that far? So in this session, we're talking about selection for your team, which is probably going to have some commonalities when it comes to role. So when you think about your team wheel for a team that's all in the same role, don't be surprised if everybody has the same behavioral characteristics. That's appropriate. They're going to do the type of work they do because their natural behavior makes them successful at it. Whereas if you're doing a team for a special project, or maybe your leadership team, you need people with a variety of behavioral styles. But if you have several people who are all working as sales teams, you want your promoter persuader out there doing sales, don't you? If you have someone in your billing department, you want them to be your analyzers. You want them to be the folks that are doing the coordination behind the scenes. I know I have a lot of clinical folks on the call, and you know what? We want supporters. So when you're thinking about your role, think about some of the behaviors you want to see. And we've got this behavioral hierarchy that we can think about when we blend our behaviors. I work with a community college helping students who are interested in nursing or physical therapy assistant programs. And they talk about, can I be a good nurse? Well, guess what? There's more than one type of nursing. You can be a nurse in the ER, and then I want somebody who's got a real sense of urgency. I want someone who likes frequent change. But then what if I'm a nurse that's going to work in hospice care? Wow. Then I want somebody who's more people-oriented, who's more into consistency because they're going to be with that patient for a longer period of time. Think about that in any type of role and you have the same situation. Do you have a high volume of traffic and you need people who have that ability to frequently change? Do you have a role that requires high level of compliance, accuracy? Then I want someone who's a rule follower and keeps an organized workspace. And again, we're going to do some questions in a few minutes that'll help you determine some of these behavioral style pieces during your selection process. And I know it's about their technical skill, but every one of you on here, I am sure has heard, you know what? Technical skills I can teach, people soft skills are harder to come by, and they're harder to teach. Depending on your technical work, you can teach someone how to do a calculation, how to fill in a spreadsheet. You can teach them different aspects of your technical skill set required for the role. These soft skills, we want people who are already pretty strong in them because it's going to make it easier for them to be successful in the role. And this is everything from project management, problem solving, decision making, practical thinking, understanding others. And someone doesn't need to be good at all 25 of these things. When I do selection, we work with clients to actually create a benchmark of what we want the role to already have. What motivations can we meet in this organization? It's going to be part of the benchmark. What behaviors am I looking for? Part of the benchmark. And then what soft skills do you need? If you're in an organization where you need to be able to do futuristic thinking and conceptual planning, that's different skill sets than maybe somebody who is going to be in that project management completion area. So you want to think about what matters to them. And then the last thing I want to talk about is once you've determined what's in it for the other person, once you've set up an ad that truly shows not just the role, but what's in it for them, your purpose, your values for the organization, and the job requirements, then the next thing is going to be that interview process. And a lot of people use behavioral interviewing. Tell me about a time. Have you ever had this situation? Behavioral interviewing is a great first step, but it is only one step when it comes to the interview questions that I'd like you to embrace. So I actually use, when you select, you're going to use this calibrated question model. And so, for example, you're going to start layering those questions. So we're going to calibrate and move through a process. The first thing you're going to do is set your intention. With this question, I want to get an understanding of the person's motivations, purpose, sense of urgency, problem-solving skills, whatever it is. You want to get really clear on why you're asking the question. So I've had organizations where we'll actually take their mission statement, we'll break it apart, and then we're going to set an intention that certain questions are going to address different aspects of the purpose or mission statement. We're going to talk about what values are important for your organization. And then you're going to create questions that address and have the intention of addressing those values. So then once you've got your intention clear, you're going to set your introductory question. This is what you're used to. This is the behavioral interviewing type questions. Nothing yes or no, much more open-ended. And they often rely on something that the person's done in the past, and then we want to see how it's going to translate to the future. The next question you're going to ask after they've given you their story is something about how. How did it make you feel? How did that change the situation? You want to go deeper than just they've had this story to share, because everybody can tell a good story. I just want to know whether or not it meant something to you. And then what did you do with that information? So your process for calibrated questions is set your intention, introductory behavioral style question, followed with a how, followed with a what. And let me show you what this looks like. So once you've decided the competencies you're looking for, the culture of your organization, you're going to ask those introductory questions that are going to involve past experience related to a specific competency or a specific behavior. You might want to know how they do when it comes to receiving critical feedback. You want to ask them, what's the ideal culture for an organization? Maybe you want to ask them what culture they have at their current organization. But that's the introduction. The next level down is, how did you approach it? How did it make you feel? How did you respond to that situation? Because now I'm starting to get a chance to see how they think, not just what they've done. And then the last thing I want to know is, tell me more about what happened there. What was the result? So maybe you got critical feedback. What behavior changes did you implement? Maybe they're telling you about a time they worked a project beginning to end. Well, what was the impact of the project? And sometimes they're going to tell us a story about a time they made a mistake. That's always a great question. Tell me about a time you made a mistake. Well, I want to know, how did it make them feel? And then I wanted to know, what do they do differently because of that mistake? So this is that calibrated question model that I invite you to consider to move beyond just a behavioral question where they tell you a story. Go deeper than that. I'm going to just share a couple other questions that can help you with the motivation factors, the behavior factors, and those soft skills. And then I want to open it up to questions as always. So if you've got a question that's already rattling around in your head, start putting it in the chat as I run through these last couple pieces. So questions about motivations, about those driving forces. Within your work, what single event, problem, or unexpected situation has the potential to throw you off balance? So here, what we're looking for is someone motivated by their harmony in their environment. Does chaos throw them off base? So if you work in a chaotic environment, you want to know what's going to throw them off base. Some people are motivated to keep their head down, put the blinders on, and do their work no matter what. I want to know what type of events is going to motivate them to do the work and motivate them to shut down. Describe an experience where you worked in a chaotic environment. What was the impact on your performance? And then they're going to tell you, and then you're going to say, how did that make you feel? Oh my gosh, I felt so empowered and alive when I worked in a chaotic environment. I felt like I was firing on all cylinders. Versus someone else is going to say, oh, when it got chaotic, I just got so stressed out. Motivated in different ways. And then when deciding on ways to do things, do you prefer using proven methods or do you like something out of the box? Again, think about how your organization rewards people. Do they reward consistent, predictable work that follows a proven method? Or are you looking for people who try something new, look for something different? How can we do it differently? Depending on how you reward and what your success factors are, you're looking for different candidates. Behaviors with your DISC. How important is it to have all the facts before proceeding? If you want to hire someone who is exact, precise, rule followers, doesn't want to make mistakes, then you're going to want them to say, facts are so important. I am going to dig. I want all the facts before I move forward. Then you're going to ask them to tell you about a time when you didn't have all the facts. How did that make you feel? How did it work out? What did you do? Another type of behavioral situation they might run into is if you're in a fast-paced environment that changes priorities regularly. Think about some smaller companies that are really nimble and almost in that startup mode of like, okay, we're going to try this. That didn't work. Let's try this instead. And they're moving around really quickly. Some people, that's not going to work with how they are going to naturally want to behave in their work environments. And the last thing is those soft skills. I know you've got all your technical skills already listed out. You know your questions for those. But think about, give me an example of when you identified something that went wrong in your department. What caused you to identify the problem? I want to know how they even thought that that was a problem. How did it make them feel when they found the problem? And then what did they do about it? What was the impact? So these are some of the different types of questions that you could use to tease out the candidate that is more than just able to do the job requirements and understands the definition of the role. All right, so we're at 1:07. I like to leave some time for questions. So go ahead, if you've got questions, feel free to take yourself off mute or put something into the chat. I'm going to be good and take my sip of water. You all know that's my cheat. Here I go. All right, well, I've got one. Flip it around. I want you to put into the chat what's something that you heard today that you know you can take back and apply. I want you to write down what you're going to hold yourself accountable to from doing this webinar today. I'm so grateful that so many of you took the time out of your day to be here. So what's your nugget? Put that into the chat. What's your nugget? What are you going to do with it? Take yourself off mute, type it in the chat, whatever you got. Striving to get more information on soft skills from the applicants themselves. Yes. And Sherry, the way that you do that is with the calibrated question. Because, you know, I love to hear, oh, tell me about a time you've had a conflict. Okay, they're going to spin a story, but I want to know, how did it make them feel? I want to know what they did with that and how it worked out in the long run. When you have one candidate that is highly qualified, but one that is less qualified, how do you decide when the high quality does not have the right personality for the role and the less qualified person is better for the customer service role? Christina, hands down, always go with the soft skills. You can teach the person the technical skills to do whatever that customer service role is. But if you have someone who doesn't have the soft skills of appreciating others, the soft skills of customer focus, that's harder to teach. Because as we know, and Christina, I know you know this, when we think about DISC, there are people who are seasoned-Ds, they're task-oriented. For a customer service role, I want some level of people orientation in their natural behavioral style. So I want you to focus on those aspects more than whether or not they can sit at the desk and answer calls, or they can be out on the floor and do those types of things. Focus on the behaviors, not on the skill set. Rachel's going to redo our open positions. Yes. Oh, Rachel, I would love to see a before and an after. So boy, if you could snippet one of your current job postings, and then if you could snippet any changes, let me see it. I'd love it. And if you need any help, just email me. Of course, all of you can always email me anytime. Andrew, I love that you want to add those follow-up questions. Oh, so what's the most effective way of communicating with each employee? Tell me a little bit more of that one, Carmilla. I'm going to need some help on that. And you can take yourself off mute if it's easier. So, oh, you want to see how to get your employees to engage one-on-one. Okay, let me save that to the end if we have time. I just want to make sure that any questions specific to this webinar we address first. So, Shelby, your questions for driving forces. I think that impacts a few different departments we have open spots for, and will help really put some important details out there. Yes, learning new things, chaotic environment. I want to know if someone is motivated to help everyone for the sake of helping, or if they want to help people for specific intentions. I want to know if they are going to focus just on efficiency, or if there's a feeling that they enjoy the success of the work. And here's the important thing with soft skills, behaviors, driving forces. There is no wrong answer for a person. There is a better answer for your organization. If you're an organization that is nimble, moving quickly, looking for out-of-the-box thinking, you're going to attract and select different people than another organization. So there's no wrong answer for any of this when it comes to an individual. Organizationally, you want to find what's right for them. All right. This has been fantastic. Carmilla, I'm just going to answer your question just as, in about 2 minutes. This is the high level one. And I would encourage you to go back to some of the older webinars. I think we've done some around quarterlies and engagement. So one of the things that you can do when you're trying to get more engagement in one-on-ones, number one, be really clear on your intention. The reason we're having a one-on-one is that I can listen to what your needs are, how you're doing, that I can figure out how I can best support you, as opposed to them thinking it's a mini performance review. That's not what we're going for in the one-on-one sit downs. Sure, you want to make sure that they're on track for their work. So you're going to make sure they're within the guardrails, but it's really about understanding what their needs are. So number one, make sure the intention is clear. Number two, be sure you're asking open-ended, powerful questions. And I know we did a webinar on that a little while ago, so you can check into some of those powerful questions. And then here's the other thing. If one-on-ones are new to them, or they're new to your organization, or they're new to you, it takes time. I will never forget that when I started one-on-ones, I had a team member who literally took her chair away from the desk, sat it against a wall, crossed her arms and said, "What's this meeting about?" And I thought, oh my gosh, I clearly did not set up the intentions well enough. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait her out. We're gonna figure this out together. And that first quarterly, she had yes or no answers, no matter what. She had eye rolls, she had shrugs. But you know what? By the second quarterly, she came in with a list. She's like, okay, if this is really about what I need, here it is. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't have to wait till a one-on-one to tell me that you need a piece of equipment. We had to work through that. And second of all, I was thrilled that she came with stuff. So you really just have to make sure people understand the why behind the quarterlies. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. We have 1 minute. So does anybody else have a question before we wrap up? If you're good, thumbs up or a wave would be awesome. As I mentioned, today was really about attracting people who are going to get their needs met in your organization. Yes, we want your needs met too, but they're going to be met best by someone who wants to be there. So let's set our job postings up in that way. Let's make sure that we're doing that during our interview process, helping us see how they match the culture and the environment, not just the technical skills. Next month in August, we are going to start focusing on team dynamics, and we're going to approach this from multiple lenses over the next couple months. Like I said, it's turning into like the year of teams. Oh, Sherry, great question or great comment. So Sherry added for Carmilla, try asking them to make a goal that they'd like to get to. Absolutely. And like I said, I believe quarterlies is something that we did a while back. So check out that webinar. And if we didn't do it, I'll put it on our list for next time.
Perfect.
Ask for all of you. Next month, we're going to start on team dynamics. I want to know what aspects of team dynamics you want to talk about. So you're going to get an email after this. I think it comes out tomorrow. I want you to tell me what you need when it comes to understanding team dynamics a little bit differently. Okay. Signing off for now. Thank you all so much for joining us. And remember, if you need anything, feel free to email me. All right. Everyone have a great day.